General, it's truly humbling to be before you, and I thank you very much for your words. I work for the organization, the US-based organization Human Rights First, who brought together in 2009 a coalition of retired senior military leaders. And on the second day of President Obama's day in office, he executed an order to ban torture in presence of those military leaders. I'd like to ask you one general question and one very precise question, if you don't mind. My general question is the following. Could you provide, please, your thoughts and analysis on the main interconnections for you between human rights and global security in the fight against terrorism? That's my first question. And my second question is more precise than that. I believe that you said that the images of torture from Abu Ghraib are non-biodegradable. And I would like to ask you, what would you say to Americans who are urging to return to the use of enhanced interrogation techniques? Thank you.
Well, thanks very much, and thanks for what Human Rights First has done. And my answer to the latter question is to say that we should not go there. Don't go there, girlfriend, as they say in the United States. I am on record. First of all, not only did we develop the Counterinsurgency Manual during my 15 months as the commander of the Combined Arms Center, which oversaw all the schools and centers and staff colleges and combat training centers of the U.S. Army in 2006. We also developed what was called the Human Intelligence Collectors Field Manual, which is also known as the Interrogation Field Manual. It does not include enhanced interrogation techniques, and it does not because, A, we think they are not necessary, and B, we think they're wrong. And in fact, it took on the force of law when Senator McCain, who knows something about enhanced interrogation techniques, having had them used on him for some 7 years in Hanoi, felt very strongly about it, and we very strongly supported his efforts in the Senate to make that field manual actually take on legal authority. You may know that in the fall of 2007, when I was in Iraq as the commander, it was still in the first year of the surge, we received the results of a survey that had actually been done about 10 months earlier. Even it was back before I think it was in late 2006. I took command in early February of 2007, and it indicated a willingness of our troopers to tolerate what we know to be actions that violate the law of land warfare and various norms and values. And I was quite concerned by that. It showed a greater predisposition to that, I think, frankly, because of the tremendous violence that our troopers had seen visited on their fellow soldiers during the height of the violence in late 2006 and into 2007. And I put out a letter, and it acknowledged the challenges of the battlefield we were on and the difficulties we faced, but noted that it was critical that we live our values, and that was the theme of that particular letter. I argued that there are two reasons to live your values. One is, of course, really centuries, I guess, generations, certainly in our case, of Americans had fought to protect and preserve those values, and again, it was the right thing to do. I also argued, though, that if you're not persuaded by the normative argument, I would argue that there's a practical argument, and that is that it tends to bite you in the backside in the long run. Expedient behavior will always backfire. And indeed, I stand by what I said about the photos from Abu Ghraib and some other incidents as well. Each of those is somewhat indelible, some much more so than others, some attaining, as we described it, non-biodegradable status. Those will always be out there on the internet. They will always be pulled back up. They become part of they're not just mythology, but they will take on almost mythological proportions, and it's very difficult to deal with those. Indeed, frankly, some of our challenges in Afghanistan, and I had a very good dialogue with President Karzai this past week, do stem from past history. And it is, again, images that are indelible for him and for other Afghans. and which are very, very difficult to try to assuage, to submerge, to get out of the consciousness, and noting what we have done to address those kinds of issues. So the bottom line is, again, I think it is imperative that we do indeed live our values. We have found, for whatever it's worth, in fact, Senator McCain was just out in Iraq last week, and we specifically wanted him to have some time with our Special Mission Unit, which does have a detention facility, an interrogation facility. It absolutely meets all the requirements of our field manual and of all the acknowledged conventions. And indeed, it is open to various groups that do monitor that. We cannot always name them by name because of various conventions, but they have all visited these facilities. There are no secret ones in Afghanistan, and so on. And in fact, we've also had President Karzai's legal advisor, a number of members of his staff we've allowed to go in there as well. So I feel pretty strongly about this. I think that you undermine your cause by practices such as waterboarding and other so-called enhancements. And in the end of the day, I don't think they certainly are not worth it, if you will, and in fact do cause us problems in the long run.